Welcome, everyone, to this meeting of the South Kingstown Town Council. It is April 25th. The time is 7:30. Our first order of business is a pledge to the flag. Please join me. Clerk, please take the roll.
Council President Collins.
Here.
Council Vice President Healy.
Here.
Councilwoman Clow.
Here.
Councilwoman Gledhill.
Here.
Councilman Veely.
Here.
All members present.
Thank you. At this time, before we get into the agenda, I'd just like to request that we all take a moment of silence in memory of Alicia Storti and with thoughts for her family. Thank you. And that brings us to item 4 on the agenda, which is the approval of minutes of previous meetings.
I make a motion that we approve item number 4A and B as presented on the agenda.
Second?
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that motion carries unanimously. Item 5 is the consent agenda.
I make a motion that we approve item 5A on the consent agenda as presented tonight.
Second?
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 And that motion carries unanimously. Item 6 on the agenda is licenses. 6A is a resolution granting a victualling license to Ocean State Waves of Wakefield for the concession at Old Mountain Field. Applicant Matt Finlayson, President and General Manager. Is Matt here tonight? I didn't see him.
Hi, my name's Vinnie Joyce. I'm the concession manager for Matt, and Matt's has a class in Newport tonight. And this is Eric. He's the general manager. And we'll answer any questions if you have any. So,
Well, welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here. Tell us about what you offer at the concession, I suppose.
we're going to do ballpark food: popcorn, hot dogs, candy, peanuts, cotton candy. Just ballpark food.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Did I hear that there's now a fixed schedule for the Waves games this year?
yeah, go ahead.
Yes, we're looking to go Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, so we can make it a fixed schedule for the community, so everyone will know that every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday throughout the months of June 1st and August 15th, there'll be a Waves game at home, so you don't have to check the schedules and everything. You can just know start time 6:30 and come down to the field.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's posted, if I'm not mistaken. I saw it on the website.
The new schedule?
Yeah.
Yeah, the new schedule just came out. It's up on the website, and we have some flyers going out, too.
Will you be doing hamburgers and hot dogs and that type of fare as well? Yeah, okay.
We were over at opening day this weekend for the Little League, and we saw Waves there. It was great to see you guys there, and a friend of mine had one of the hamburgers, and she was like, I'm looking forward to coming back to tonight's game to have another one. So, yeah, very good.
It's a nice community event. It kind of brings people together, and at Old Mountain Field, which is, one of the oldest venues here in town, so we appreciate it.
Yeah, one thing that we would like to do is invite the town council to come out and throw out a first pitch for opening night. Hopefully you can all attend. And as well, when our players get here from all over the country, when they finish their college seasons, after their first practice, we're going to have a 2-hour free community event for all Little Leaguers to come meet the players and, play a little wiffle ball and get some advice from the college guys as soon as they get here so we can tie the community right into our program.
Sounds great.
Right.
Great.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
I make a motion to approve item number 6A.
Second.
So moved. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Vinnie,
carries unanimously.
will you be singing the national anthem?
Not me.
Excellent. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
6B is a resolution granting a victualling license to Sumo Sushi, doing business as Crazy Fusion Cafe. This is an application by Ki-Jun Lee, the president.
Hi, good evening. Good evening. My name is Ki J. Lee. I own of Sumo Sushi in Newport. I run the business for 16 years, since from 2001. And fortunately, I have a chance to open another one in the 914 Road, and which is on the right to store from the CBS.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Any questions for Ki?
So are you open 7 days a week?
I have a plan to open 6 days, and lunch and we close at 7:30 or 8 o'clock.
Okay. Well, that's great. I'll make a motion to approve item number 6B.
I'll second that.
So moved. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Best of luck to you.
Congratulations. More sushi is good.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thank you.
And that brings us to item 7, and we'll open the public hearing A, a public hearing relative to the adoption of the Town Council's FY 2016-2017 budget, as it's been amended, to consider petitions filed pursuant to Section 4222 of the Town Charter entitled Budget Petitions to the Council, seeking to amend the town's preliminary FY 2016-2017 budget, which was adopted on Monday, March 14th, 2016, and is shown on as Exhibit 1 in your agendas. The following petitions have been filed. First is a shall line item number 101300003, entitled Public Services, Streets and Highways, in the amount of $2,329,287 to be increased by the sum of $25,000 to the amount of $2,354,287 for the purpose of an expanded sidewalk clearing program. Line item 101810000, entitled Contributions to Outside Agencies, in the amount of $47,715 be increased by the sum of $5,000 to the amount of $52,715 for the purpose of increasing the contribution to the Wakefield Village Association from $3,500 to $8,500. And finally, shall line item number 101160001, entitled Planning Department, in the amount of $391,591 be increased by the sum of $10,000 to the amount of $401,591 for the purpose of funding professional services to update the town's inventory of historic structures. Okay, that was a mouthful. And then we had a letter relating to another.
There is one communication that was continued from a council meeting in March. It is from Ella M. Whaley, Secretary of the VFW Auxiliary Post number 916, requesting an appropriation of $5,000 for the building fund in order to improve the facility.
Thank you, Dale.
For discussion on that, I would like to recuse myself from any conversation or voting, as I am president of the VFW Auxiliary.
Very good.
Thank you.
And perhaps it would be best to get more clarification on that particular topic, if we want to take it up first. I see Ella in the audience who sent in that letter. So if you could come up to the podium.
Thank you very much. I'm Ella Whaley, and I am Secretary of the VFW Auxiliary, Post 916, located at 55 High Street in Wakefield. So thank you for this opportunity to speak. This post is in dire need of some repairs, especially with handicap accessibility. We really need to redo the handicap ramp, and then when we do get people in the second floor with the handicap ramp, there are no bathroom facilities, so they would have to go back outside the building, down the hall, down the hill, and then in through the bottom floor. So there hasn't been any major repairs to the building since 1990. And we truly believe that this would send a message to our veterans here in Washington County and the state of Rhode Island to, if we can get the support from the town council, truly believe that this would send a message to our veterans that they are truly supported and appreciated as they have served our country well and fought for the freedom which we enjoy every single day. So $5,000 is the request, and if I can just take a minute to just briefly speak about some of the initiatives that we have at the VFW. Our mission is to support veterans and increase patriotism. We have sponsored the Voice of Democracy through our post in the Patriots Pen, which are essay contests with our schools. And we have just completed our Young Americans Patriotic Art Contest, and we took the whole sweep for the state of Rhode Island. We had 12 entries. I contacted 8 schools in Washington County, grades 9 through 12. Our first place winner is Nicole Gennari from South Kingstown High School. Her patriotic piece of art will be shipped to National, so she will be judged among 51 pieces of art, and I think the scholarship is like $50,000 if she wins, so we have a very good shot at having one of our own South Kingstown High School students shine. The second place winner was a student from North Kingstown High School and 2 third-place winners from Exeter West Greenwich High School. We had a total of 12 entries, so they were all part of Washington County, our post, 916. We also have a Spirit of Patriotism Committee, which meets with the schools, and we've got a legislative grant from Representative Tanzi. We're going to try to use some of that money, hopefully, to purchase some books for our elementary schools. We also are going to have an honor garden ceremony at West Kingston Elementary School on May 25th. The students will be honoring a relative that has served in the military or is currently serving, and they will plant a flag in memory of their relative related to the military. And lastly, I'd just like to say that we're the largest auxiliary in the whole United States. We have 125% membership. And we are also accepting male members now. There was a change in the charter. We have our first male member. He's actually my brother, Tom Tetzner. So if anyone would like to, join the auxiliary, please give us a call. We're located at 55 High Street. And really would like to thank you for considering this request. It would be greatly appreciated. Any questions?
Ella, what made you guys decide now to ask for money from the town for the repairs? Was there anything, initiative that came up or anything that sparked that, or just thought the time was appropriate?
It was actually at our March meeting, and our President, Rachel Clow, had said, she was surprised that we had not ever asked the town for any money. And I said, it's not too late. You're voting on the budget in April, and immediately there was a motion on the floor to have me write the letter, and here we are tonight. So, truly appreciate it. Last but not least, I just want to briefly mention that on May 21st, there's going to be a steak fry at the Elks. Tickets are $25, and this will go in the building fund to help support some of the renovations. So hopefully you'll put that on your calendar, May 21st, 5 to 8, $25, a steak fry at the Elks. They've been working with the Elks, and Rachel's reached out to the Rotary. So we're trying to really pull assets from many organizations in town. Any other questions? Meg?
Ella, I want to thank you for coming forward, because obviously the building is in need of repair, and it sounds like there is such a rejuvenation to not only gain membership, but to do the right thing for handicapped accessibility. And I think this is something that the town as a whole would like to see go through, because our veterans have served us, and they need a place that we can help them as well and support them, even as part of the Women's Auxiliary and the male members you're bringing in. So thank you for your hard work, and thank you for everybody for what you're doing.
Thanks, Meg.
Ella, I have
Joe?
a question. Do you have an idea of what the scope, how big the amount of money you'll need ultimately to do the things you want to do? No, 5,000,
yeah.
isn't it?
I don't have, I mean, 5,000 is just the beginning. I don't have a total, but the downstairs definitely needs to be redone, and we need a bathroom on that second floor. We need to redo the, I think the ramp was going to be $3,600. So it's going to be way more than 5,000,
Oh, yeah.
but we have other initiatives to try to raise some money.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ellen. Then, I guess we'll just take these so, first off, does the council want to discuss these items amongst ourselves, or do we want to have people come up and discuss them first?
I think it would make sense to have, if someone wants to speak to it first and then discuss it.
Okay. Then,
Are we
I
going
s-
to take them individually or all at once?
well, we have to act on them after we close the public hearing, so we can, I'd say, have our discussion one by one.
Right.
So I would say the first one is the 25,000 petition for sidewalk clearing program. Let's see, can you hear?
Good evening, Councilman. Thanks for having this on the agenda. We did follow the process that the clerk had laid out and the town manager through the budget process. As you're aware, excuse me, the Healthy Places by Design group has been active this budget session, appearing before the council to advocate for whatever may be necessary, if it's staff time or capital investments, to help basically improve upon the town's existing practice of maintaining sidewalks in and around town. You may recall, not this past winter, but the winter before, we had quite a bit of snowfall. The Healthy Places by Design group got very active, and they took up the issue of assessing the town's sidewalks. They performed several sidewalk surveys. They tried outreach to individual businesses. They really tried at a grassroots level to effectively take an existing town practice that really works well in and around Wakefield and Peacedale and kind of build on that. Again, that was about a year and a half ago. This past year was really, in our Healthy Places by Design group, focused on looking at both bicycles and walking. You may remember that about 6 months ago, we were recognized by the state of Rhode Island and the American Planning Association for grassroots initiatives to really look at the healthy lifestyles in and around our town. We're very much appreciative of that award, and we took it the next step and we put this, the bicycle piece aside, and we focused on sidewalks. Unfortunately, what we had to do is march to the pace of the town budget process. We started advocating for funding directly because that was what the schedule required. We understand that there's been quite a bit of thoughtful work put into this, this issue by town staff in terms of what the town's liabilities are for both state roads and town roads as it pertains to sidewalks. There's been several memos written by town staff. There's been equipment that's been assessed, and we know that as residents, we don't have the answers, but we're very interested in being a partner with the town as they look at what I think is clearly a town obligation. We're very passionate about the town. We know that if we can do things ourselves, that's our first echelon reaction. We like to take things and be accountable to them ourselves. But as you're going through a budget process, we felt that it was appropriate to at least set up a placeholder. And very specifically, what we're focused in on are the clustered, most heavily traveled pedestrian areas in town. We think they're in Wakefield, they're in Peacedale. I believe the town staff refer to this section of walked areas as the loop, and effectively just build off of that, not expand it as a town-wide system where all sidewalks are cleared, but just really where are people walking and why are they walking? We learned that the school department has a policy that compels children to walk to school throughout the year if they live within a certain radius of their school, and there are other factors that are considered. So it is a complicated issue that I think is best addressed by staff, but also perhaps with input from the community. And with that, I simply just ask your consideration of this amount of funding, which is really just a number that we made up. It has no basis. It's really just a placeholder for a subsequent discussion. We believe the school department, the police department, public services, all through the town manager's office could assess maintaining sidewalks, specifically during high snowfall events, and perhaps come back to the council sometime in the fall. And if there is a need for funding, you'd have that funding in place. So that's our request.
Thank you, Kenny. Questions? All right, well, thank you very much. I think, do we want to discuss it now?
Sure. Well, I have a question, and it might be, I'm not sure who it's to, but when you refer to Healthy Places by Design, you refer to it here, and I think everybody would maybe like a little background on that because, and maybe Steve would be good to say how Healthy Places by Design began. I believe it was a grant for the town. So it's actually on the town website. It's a town organization, and it's being referred to as maybe separate.
Yeah, I mean, I'll defer to the town manager as to its genesis, but I do recall that there was a Department of Health grant, and there are several communities throughout Rhode Island that were awarded that grant. I believe the town was the fiduciary for that grant program initially, and there were several recommendations that came out of that program. Healthy lifestyles, healthy eating. My involvement has been probably for the last 2.5 years as some of the subcommittees had been pared down. The most active subcommittee was actually the biking and walking group.
Right.
So that they became kind of just a group without any affiliation. It's just a bunch of citizens that get together and talk about that specific piece of the Healthy Places by Design grant that was awarded many years ago.
Right.
Do you
Right.
want-
I just think it does speak to the dedication the town has always had for the health and well-being of its citizens. You know, it's certainly always been important here. Sorry, Joe.
No. If there are no other questions for Mr. Berg?
Ken, I'm a simple guy. How'd you pick that number?
Oh, okay. So, right, I said I pulled it out of the air, but really what it was is, I believe it was in November, through a request of Representative Tanzi, she had asked the town manager to have staff take a look at a piece of equipment to potentially move snow off the sidewalks. And I believe John Schock had come up with a number of maybe $35,000. Then on top of that, if you recall on Main Street a couple of winters ago, the snow had built up so high that they had to do some removal at night, and I believe it was just under $5,000 per event. So I think through John Schock's analysis, and the town manager has analyzed this, it's really tough to write a budget number on this issue. So I just took a little bit lower number. I said about $25,000. It could be any number, depending on a variety of factors that the town staff are clearly, they understand the details very, very directly.
It's to me, it's and I'm trying to be pretty careful about not micromanaging staff. It's an operations function, and I think really a plan needs to be developed first, and I know it's moving a little slow for you, for others as well. So I get that, but that's the frustration sometimes of dealing with the government.
So is it your intention, oh, I'm sorry, Meg.
Go ahead.
So it's your intention with this $25,000 as a placeholder, sort of as a commitment to come up with something that would build upon our current policies regarding snow removal? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so really, it's more of a gesture that we're committed to building off of this and coming up with something. I think you had a date in here by September that would say before next winter, you know, this is how we're expanding on our policy.
That's correct.
I can't speak for anybody at this table, but I would hope that we were all in agreement that we all agree to the health and safety of all our populations, whether it be children, whether it be walkers, whether it be our senior population. That's important to all of us. I wanted to make that point stressed tonight. We're not looking to jeopardize the safety of anybody in this community. I agree that if there is a tumultuous year, as there was last year, we would probably need more manpower to clear the sidewalks. I just want to make sure we have the proper equipment in place. I know down on Main Street, there's a lot of phone poles right in the middle of the sidewalks, which makes it very, very difficult. I'm not opposed to the safety of anybody in this community. I just want to make sure it's done right, and I'm not saying I want to put the cart before the horse, but you had a good point in the letter that I read, and it was very well written. So I would like to see the parameters of where, I know where the loop is, what is going to be addressed first, and how much snowfall, and what are we going to do, and is it going to jeopardize where the plows go versus... I have a lot of questions. I don't disagree with you, Ken.
Sure.
I think it's important to protect the town, and I think we have a responsibility as well. So I support that notion. I do. But I want to make sure that we're doing this in the right way, and I'm not putting money out, not myself, without knowing where it's going to be.
Sure.
If I can add to what I said earlier, writing that plan is going to be very difficult because every storm's different. The conditions are very different. So it's going to have to be a pretty comprehensive plan that has funding. But I don't disagree with you that, you know,
I don't either.
we sort of need to address it. There's no question about that. I mean, I deal with it in Peacedale.
It's a manpower issue, too.
I'm unique. I have equipment that can blast through, and I just take care of it. But
Lucky duck.
Yes,
No, but a
you
lot
are
of people
unique,
don't.
yes.
You know, in our goals and objectives, if I could go back, we did have in there to evaluate current post-storm snow clearance policies and practices and determine if greater efficiency can be realized and determine if expansion of municipal program in the area is feasible. So it's in our goals and objectives. I think I have no doubt that our staff is doing the very best they can to analyze the situation and do everything we can to improve upon it. We do clear the sidewalks around the schools, especially the ones where kids are walking, sometimes in a unique snowstorm, possibly not in time since we're first opening all the buildings and all. It might be a good idea to maybe ask the school committee if they could consider busing those kids in those times, those few days, on those years where we have special, you know, storms and situations where we then wouldn't have any walkers for the safety of the kids. That might be an area. I just don't see that, you know, you said you just made up the number. I don't think that's how you do a budget. We can't make up a number and throw it out there and then go chasing it down to see how to spend it. I would feel more comfortable personally having our staff really look at the situation, come back to us with what it might cost and what their recommendations are for improving it before chasing money that, you know, we might not need to spend. We might need to spend more.
I appreciate that, and if I could just clarify, you know, having $25,000 in the budget on July 1st really doesn't do us any good as far as snow removal in February. So I'm fine with that. I think you all understand that, and I'm like-minded with all of you, that the town is eminently qualified. I think the commitment to having an engaged process is probably more valuable than anything, and I think that's what I'm hearing from all of you as well. And if we could have that, I think that would be a wonderful thing, because it is complicated. And you know, I don't want to try to shoot from the hip. I don't want to pull numbers out of the air. And I don't want to certainly be in a position where anybody's directing staff what to do. They know what they're doing. And we would just like to see some progress on this.
So, oh, go ahead. Oh,
No,
I
if you
just
have
had,
another question, so.
well, more of a couple of comments. So you and other people have been coming to the council as long as I've been on here talking about snow removal. And I know that we had Mr. Schock prepare a memorandum explaining how much a piece of equipment would cost that would clear sidewalks. And then we later determined that that piece of equipment wouldn't be efficient for what we needed because it was too wide or not wide enough. I think that the dimensions were wrong on it.
I don't think it was the town council that asked him to come up with that.
No, Teresa did.
Right.
I'm saying the group came, and John prepared a memorandum that came to us asking that. I mean, explaining the piece of equipment that we later realized was not appropriate for what we needed. So I feel like this has definitely been in discussion for a while, but I don't know if it's maybe just taking a long time or if it doesn't feel like it's very productive, because even in reading this very thorough memo from Steve and John, a lot of the information is stuff that we've already discussed, and I think that we were all already pretty aware of. And I think we're all in agreement that the town does a great job with what they have and their commitments. I guess my question would be to Steve, the loop that we clear, is that written somewhere that we're obligated to clear that, or do we have a policy by like what time we have it cleared, or is it just something we do, you know, because we're a very good community like that?
I think Joe hit it on the head. What the issue is that we have to deal with snowstorms based on the size, the severity, and what the weather conditions are subsequent to the storm. There's sometimes after a heavy storm, if there's freeze conditions, we're not going to be able to move that snow because it's iced.
Mm-hmm.
Every storm is going to be different. I think that what we've said right along and what we have done for the last probably 50 or 60 years is we've attempted to clear snow where we could to try to enhance public health and safety.
Mm-hmm.
The loop roads are defined on the map that we gave you. Actually, we've given you the map, I think, 3 different times.
Mm-hmm.
The key isn't the sidewalks itself, it's the time that people want the snow removed from the sidewalks after the stop of snowfall, and secondly, whether we actually can remove it, and third, whether or not it's a clearing or pushback, or whether it's a removal and disposal. All of those introduce different circumstances as far as what we can and can't do. If a group were to say to me today that I think that a well-traveled road is Route 108 from Peacedale to the Narragansett Town Line and Old Post Road to the Lodgewood, and the snow should be expanded to be removed from that in addition to the areas we currently do, my answer would be, it's not the equipment, it's the fact that we wouldn't have the labor complement to be able to accomplish that. Not that we wouldn't want to accomplish that, but rather, we have to look at what's practical based on resources that are available. And that's where the biggest problem comes in terms of dealing with a policy that's going to be hard and fast. Because sometimes we need to remove the snow quickly because we know it's going to freeze in 48 hours. And it may only be less than 6 inches. In other cases, we may have a very light snow that we're expecting a rainstorm and that we don't think that we're going to need to clear. All of those things are taken into consideration. So while I think it's great to be able to say, gee, we should have a hard and fast policy, what I'm saying is, from a practical standpoint, when you deal with Mother Nature, you deal with what you have, and you try to address it as best you can. From a budgetary standpoint, we've had years that we've overspent the budget, and we've reallocated funds within the budget where it's been an expensive year. In other years, we've had money that's been unspent, that's either gone to fund balance or been used to deal with potholes as a result of the storms. So I think what we attempt to do through the council is to have a living budget, deal with the problems that we can deal with, and then address how we want to spend the money if we've got it left at the end of the year. But, you know, the ambiguity in the petition, which suggests identification of well-traveled roads, is really what's most troubling to me. Because I think that Ken's interpretation of what that is and my interpretation may be the same, yet I would not be able to agree to it, not because I wouldn't want to, but because I wouldn't have the staff resources capable of being able to meet that demand.
Steve, what do other communities do, other than having the policy about people clearing snow in front of their own sidewalks? Does Narragansett have a policy about clearing the seawall or anything like that?
I think every community has to deal with snow removal in some form or fashion. Several of the communities do have removal ordinances. I think removal ordinances have proven to be ineffective in most communities because it really requires the community to have the police department acting as an enforcement agent. And the police have got far more important things to do, particularly when they're dealing with accidents that have occurred as a result of ice conditions. So I'm not sure that it's practical. We've seen it work in some communities.
Yeah, I'm definitely not
in
suggesting
others.
that. Yeah, I just wasn't sure about their snow removal policies, and like we have the loop that we, try to maintain. I wasn't sure if other communities have something similar that we could look to, maybe for some guidance.
I think, again, it's going to come down to what the conditions are on roads. If you have roads where there's a grass sidewalk and the poles are within the grass area, and you've got a 4-foot walkway, you can push a plow through that and do a considerable amount of sidewalks. Illustration would be like the town of Bristol. Bristol's got very wide boulevard-type roads, and it has sidewalks that do not have as many of the telephone poles, signs that would interfere. They can get a lot more work done. Next door, in the next community, they've got an ordinance that they're trying to enforce, but they have no one to enforce it. So there's differences with each community. Some communities are charging people a fine of $2. Other ones have got $5. It makes no sense. I think that what we have to look at, though, is what's the community's responsibility to assist in those type of emergency conditions. And hopefully you do get a commitment. I met with several folks, and I think that one of the concerns was that people don't know what the town's policy is. Are we going to be out on a given storm or are we not? And we should publish that if there's 6 inches of snow, we're going to do the loop. If there's less than 6 inches, we're not, or some form or fashion like that. And again, my concern with that is it's not practical based on what the weather conditions may in fact be. The duration of the storm may put us out so that we're 24 hours away from being able to start sidewalks. I think the other thing that John's memorandum was very important on was it identified all the areas that we're responsible as a municipality to clean so that we can get ready to open for business, whether it's the senior center, whether it's the libraries, whether it's the different downtown parking lots. All of those things are also priorities that people are saying, us first. So you need to look at what the extent of the overall program is to really get an appreciation, not so much of the equipment, but the personnel functions that are involved here. You know, we had a complaint filed after one of the snowstorms this year that the town didn't have sidewalks cleared, and the storm ended at midnight, and the kids were walking in snow at 8 o'clock the following morning. Just a totally impractical way of thinking about snow removal. If you're out there plowing for 18 hours, you're not going to be able to get sidewalks done in the middle of the night. There has to be some time for those persons that are working the storm to be able to get proper rest so that they're not jeopardizing their safety or the safety of the public as they're using heavy equipment. I don't want to belabor the point. I think there's no one on staff that isn't in favor of proper snow removal, but it's got to be within a range of what we can do, both from an equipment standpoint and a personnel perspective. If there's certain roads that people say are the most important, that are outside of the loop, that aren't going to require us to deal with removal and disposal requirements, maybe we can look at that. But we're not doing Dale Collier Corner on a storm-to-storm basis unless we're going to develop a program where there's going to be additional personnel and equipment brought into the system. And I'm not sure on balance that that's in the taxpayer's best interest. We can't guarantee that sidewalks are clear 365 days a week.
Of course.
That's just an impossibility.
Do you think it's realistic that by next winter, we would be able to coordinate with either Healthy Places by Design or somebody else in the community to come up with a comprehensive snow removal plan that would meet some of the needs of the groups that are asking and also be realistic in what the town's abilities are?
If we had people say to us, these are the roads that we think are important, we could evaluate whether or not we could consider those. But again, there's going to be snow conditions that we're going to have to delay 24 or 48 hours on those types of removals, whether we have a policy in place or not, based on where we are on a personnel basis. That's the reality of dealing with an emergency situation, is every one of them is going to be different.
Great. If I could, as you said too, Ken, you said that you kind of came up with the number based on Representative Tansey had requested the information on the piece of equipment. In our December 2nd work session, she was here and she did tell us that she had applied for a grant for this piece of equipment and that all the town would be responsible for would be the labor to run the equipment. I think that's what really got everything going with this number of $25,000 to $30,000. You know, I don't know if there's been any progress with that grant. We haven't heard anything about that. But I will say the town certainly has moved forward, done the very best, you know, dealing. Luckily, this past winter, it's been a very light winter. It doesn't always happen. And when I was looking at this and I was thinking, you know, we're trying to put into place a practice to deal with Mother Nature, I had to think back on the storm where we had all the flooding, which you certainly couldn't walk then, and that was, you know, going to be a lot more. I mean, the town staff did an amazing job doing everything they could during that time of crisis, and in some instances, these big storms are just that. They're you know, a very big inconvenience, very big staff project. And I really think we need to look at some creative ways, like I had said, maybe busing the kids, some other ways, but realizing you might not be able to walk. You're in New England. You know, there might be a day or two of the winter where you can't.
If I could, I'm appreciative of your time, and again, I'm appreciative of the town manager's perspective on this, and I think some of the things he said just kind of emphasize, underscore our points here. We're pretty clear on what the town's done for the last 40 years, and generally speaking, it's worked well. I think they've targeted their resources in a very cost-effective manner, as best they could to, you know, protect the taxpayers. I think that's very clear. What we've brought forth for your consideration is that there may be times where there isn't harmony with a school policy. It's a bona fide policy, and as you're talking, council folks, you're talking about potential solutions. We understand it's complicated, and to try to solve it during a public hearing is not the best avenue. And this is a circular discussion, as the town manager has pointed out, after he describes and defends the practices which have really served us well for many, many years. There's still some gaps, and that's really what we're talking about. This is not a wholesale change. It's really honoring the great work that's been done for decades, but acknowledging that a few years ago, a lot of people were dragged out, and they were passionate about looking at how to really just smooth off some edges of a policy that's been in place, or an ad hoc policy that's been in place for a long time. And there eventually is likely to be a fiscal note attached to whatever policy or practice that we come up with, which is why we came out many, many times throughout this past winter to petition your assistance. So I'm really here tonight to say we understand the first memo from John talked about a piece of equipment for $30,000. Representative Tanzi had requested that information. It actually was to help the town, which John has indicated in his memo. This is actually a town responsibility. It's not a state responsibility. So she actually tried to help facilitate the town's need to manage this somehow. If at all, if we could just consider perhaps having this go offline, have it be led by the staff. I don't want to be the unique person responsible for saying which sidewalk should get preferential treatment. I think collectively, the school department, public safety, and public services could probably flesh that out. And it probably takes several cycles of interacting with other various local groups to ensure a high degree of engagement, so that maybe in September you have a better handle of what you're looking at. Whether or not you take action is something completely different, because it could be a substantial cost. And that's really what we're asking for, just to consider that process.
If there's no other questions, we should probably get on to some of the other questions.
Well,
I do
unless
think...
anybody has anyone else has to speak about this.
True.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you. I think the town has been very committed to complete streets in general and promoting walkability, bikeability. I really appreciate the tip that we put forward, or the tip proposal. And I know that we'll be committed to continuing the conversation. And, I don't think that conversation depends on a $25,000 line item. But we really do need to flesh out, is it the expansion of the loop? Is it snow removal from Main Street? Is there the necessity for an ordinance for people to be responsible for their own? Those are, complicated discussions that will require staff leading them. I think you're right about that. So I don't know if it happens by September 1st or not, but I think, we're committed to making sure that that conversation continues to happen. Are there any other people who want to discuss that particular petition? Please come forward.
I thought I was going to be late, so I didn't dress for the occasion, but Linda Soderberg, resident. So I did have a couple of questions, and as I was reading this in the newspaper, and Stephen, it's not state law that everybody has to clean. Sidewalks are a very important issue for me. So it isn't a state law that they have to be cleaned by the resident or the business?
No, by ordinance.
By ordinance?
Various towns require that by ordinance. It's not a state law.
Okay. And then some of the questions, though Kenny just raised one, is my question would be, considering that it talks about an expanded sidewalk clearing program, it's who would decide who's chosen and whose sidewalks are selected and what areas of town are selected, and are some more important than others, and how is that criteria developed, and who would make that selection? Because as a taxpayer, if I had a sidewalk, I might want mine cleared. So, just a thought.
Linda, I think that we're best to leave that to staff to flush all those details out.
Well, I would think before we would set money aside, that there would be some type of plan developed first, instead of just plucking some amount of money out and saying that's going to take care of it, and then we determine where that money's going to be spent. Just a thought.
I think you have a very good point there, Linda, and I think that's actually what the purpose of the meeting is, to decide whether we allocate the funds or come up with a good plan to decide how the money would be spent and where it should be spent. And I'm not saying that the cart is being put before the horse, but your point is very valid. If you had a sidewalk, you'd want yours to be first too, If I had a sidewalk, I'd want mine to be
Yeah, well,
first as well. We all pay
I've talked about
taxes.
sidewalks for 30 years in this state, in this
But,
town.
but
And I have a very tight relationship around
But-
sidewalks.
but
I
that-
do
you know,
have a sidewalk,
I
and mine's
still don't
probably
have
one of
one.
the first.
But that being said, I think that Kenny brought up an excellent point when he spoke, to have a comprehensive dialogue so that we can make a decision and work together, whoever the groups of people or the residents are that want to come forward, so that we can decide what is the best course of action for the town. I think that's a really prudent step that we should really undertake, and Ken's point was right to that.
Okay.
And I feel like what this $25,000 means is whenever we do come up with the town staff, whoever we coordinate with, inevitably, I imagine, it's going to have some sort of cost. And if we had money set aside, we could implement that plan sooner rather than later, maybe if it's in phases or steps. I don't know if that's the intention with the placeholder, but that's kind of how I viewed it, where we could start right away as opposed to having to allocate the money in next year's budget and then, you know, have to delay another winter without the ability to start a plan.
So, to follow up with that.
Sure.
We didn't really have winter this year. The year before, we had more than enough. But we didn't really have this winter, so I would assume that the allocation that we had for this year would just move forward to next year?
Unbalanced.
Okay.
But there's nothing that would prevent, let's say we had a winter from 2 winters ago, we would only spend the budget again, we would have to reallocate and do less of other things, just as you do in your home. We deal with emergencies, and the reason the town maintains the fund balance is if in fact there are emergencies, the council has the ability to ensure that the public safety is met.
So I guess what I want to say is I'm kind of against putting $25,000. I think that's a large sum of money for a what-if. I think that's what caught my eye in the paper, what if. So let's take a chunk of money and put it aside when I think that people's taxes in South Kingstown are challenging enough. And to add to them on a what-if, I think is not good business. So.
Thank you. And I think it's worth pointing out that we do have money set aside for emergencies. We have a substantial fund balance. And if we come up with this plan, it's within our power to allocate some money to a new program if we decide that it's necessary. All right. Any other comments on?
Just a short, quick one. My name's Cateri Collins, and I'm a community member. I just would urge you to appreciate the adoption of complete streets, and that walking isn't necessarily just a recreational sport, but also a source of transportation for many people in the town. So I know the dream of mine to have cars and walkers on equal footing is probably far-fetched, but we wouldn't ever say, oh, sorry, drivers, your street wasn't cleared, because we just couldn't get to it. So, and we do say that to a lot of walkers. So.
If I see no other comments on this item, let's move on to the $5,000 for the Wakefield, that the Wakefield Village Association is pursuing.
Hi, my name is Jan Burtwell. I'm representing the Wakefield Village Association. Wakefield Village Association, as you know, received a $5,000 grant from the town for banners, and it was contingent on receiving a grant from the state, which unfortunately didn't happen. And we would like to reallocate that $5,000 to our summertime community event, River Fire. Last year was our second year of River Fire, and it was a huge success. We had music every Thursday night, River Fire on the river. The stores stayed open late on Main Street. The restaurants saw an uptick in business, and there were people on the town streets just walking and enjoying their community every Thursday night. Steve Maciel did a great job getting music every single Thursday, and it was just a wonderful event, and we received so much positive feedback on that. And we would like to build on that for this coming summer. We're going to be starting on Thursday, June 23rd, and that will go through September 29th. What we'd like to use the $5,000 is to put it towards improving the fire baskets. Right now, Ken Tetzner has been working with Dave Multrop from South County Steel, and he's designing new fire baskets. They are anticipated to cost between $1,000 and $1,500 each, and we're in preliminary discussions with the DEM, because although those fire baskets aren't permanently installed, they'll be floating on the river, we still would like to have DEM approval for them. So the estimated total cost of this project is $18,000, and that would include the 12 fire baskets, the anchors and anchor lines, any permitting and installation costs that we incur, and of course the ongoing expense of the River Fire project would be borne by the Wakefield Village Association. So, any questions?
Jan, I wanted to know, is this going to be an annual request, or is this a one-time request for getting the program, kind of on its feet to the improvements that you need?
Well, to tell you the truth, I would have to defer to Ken Tetzner on that, because he's taken the lead on this project and he's on vacation, so I'm stepping in on that. But I would say at least for this year, and then we'll see what happens subsequent years.
How do you plan on raising the rest of the funds?
For 3 years, we've done the Art Festival in October, and we've teamed up with Festival Fet for that, and that was Festival Fet was a for-profit organization. This year, we are doing the Art Festival on our own, so any funds that we raise from the Art Festival, whether it be from vendor fees, food, anything that we do is going to go back into the projects that we've taken on.
Okay. And you did the River Fire. I've heard very good things about it. I always work Thursday nights till 8, so I never got down to it. But I did hear very good things. People that did go loved it. I'm curious if you did any asking of donations during that at all last year.
We had, in conjunction with that, we had a art walk, and the only donations that we asked for is we asked people to contribute canned goods to go to the Johnny Gage Center.
Just because going to our fireworks each year, you see the Parks and Rec out there asking for donations, and I think it's a way to be able to continue to do the things you do. We certainly enjoy these events that are, appear to be free to the public, but we have to remember they do all have a cost, and
right. But
who's bearing that cost?
Right, right, and that's a good point. We like this event to be a family-friendly event and something that all families can participate in, regardless of their financial situation.
Excellent. But that's, that is where the donation comes in.
Correct.
So the people that can do and that, people that can't, it's a donation.
Right, that's an excellent suggestion.
And that would certainly offset some of your costs for the event as
Right.
well.
My big concern with this, and, it was asked, this $5,000 that you're requesting is on top of $3,500 that you already get. If it were a one-time, get you on your feet, get you going, I just don't see it feasible going to $8,500 each year for any, we in this community spend $7,000 a year on all 3 of our parades. So to ask us to put that money aside If it's a one-time thing, I just would need assurance that you're not going to come back year after year asking for more than the 3,500. Because, I certainly see the value in the river fire for the community, but the cost cannot continue to fall back on the
Well,
town.
of course, the money is going to go for the fire baskets, the $18,000, and we're asking for the $5,000 specifically for that project. The rest of the money for the baskets will be raised by the Wakefield Village Association.
And then I'm sure you might not know the ongoing expenses with these, the life expectancy,
Right, right.
That's where my concern comes in, is going forward.
Well, I can't really speak to that, but I would assume that something that's used once a week for several weeks in the summer, taken out of the water and stored, would last a good long time.
What have you been using?
We have other fire baskets, but they're not as sturdy as what we're looking for.
I think they're barrels, aren't they?
I think so.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
they're affectionately referred to as hobo barrels. Yes.
There you go.
I'm not opposed to any concept that's going to bring community together. I think that's very important for the community spirit and the people of the town. And I think if it's something that's a family-centric place that people can go and certainly enjoy, then so be it, because it doesn't have to cost a lot of money to have a good time. I am cognizant, and I will be honest with you, that we're not spending our own dollars, we're spending the taxpayers' dollars. So if this were to be approved, I would like to see it come as a renewal every year, because my only concern in doing this, which I am in favor of having this, my only concern is that what's going to stop the next community that wants to come in, or the next event that wants to come in. And we have to be careful about spending taxpayer dollars. I'm not saying this is not a good event, and I admire you for bringing it very co-centric and giving us an idea of how the money wants to be spent. I was more concerned about the banner project because we didn't have all of the parameters. And as Rachel said, there are still some questions that need to be asked, but you at least have honed it into something that you really have earmarked the money to be utilized for.
I would just be concerned that it's certainly a one-time request, and that, if it is approved, it would be very generous on behalf of the town, because it is the taxpayers' money. The $3,500 that the Wakefield Village Association gets each year is a large amount, and that really should help get you going, and the
Well,
events you do, I hope, start raising some money.
The 3,500, a lot of that last year went to the lights that we put up in the town. The light installation alone cost 3,500, and we procured the lights ourselves, and that was, I think that was between 3,000 and 4,000 just to get the lights.
The only thing I just wanted to add, and I'm sorry to interject, but I think this is important. When we approve road races and things of that nature, I'm sure you have a liability insurance policy because you're dealing with fire on water if somebody, not that they would fall in or anything like that, but probably because it is town taxpayer money and town allocated fund, we'd probably like to see an insurance liability
Sure.
policy.
And do you know where the new river fire, where it would go in the river?
Last year, it was behind the town municipal lot, sort of across from the Sari.
Sanctuary.
Yes, because that's where the music was, so it's kind of centered in that area. Plus, there's that nice walk there, and people can really walk along that path and really enjoy the music and the lights, and that's pretty much where it's centered.
And so you have already been speaking with DEM?
Yes. Preliminary discussions, yes.
Well, one thing I really like about this is, like you said, that it is a free event, and so anybody can go. Don't have to spend any money whatsoever to go down and enjoy the river fire and the music. And I love that you're collecting canned goods for the Johnny Cake. I think, like you said, Steve has done an incredible job with that hunger network that they have with all the musicians that come together for these kinds of things. So, assuming, but not knowing that this wouldn't be a reoccurring cost, that this is kind of a, your first-time investment in these baskets, and considering that we already approved $5,000, thinking that you were going to get a grant contingent on that, I think that it's money well spent. And certainly next year, if you came to us and said, oh, well, we need another $5,000, we could say, look, that's not how this works. Just as we did this year, some groups asked for extra money, and we said no. And we certainly evaluate that on a case-by-case basis. But I think that what you guys are doing and just the long-term project that you're looking at, like this is something we want to do every summer, free to the community, to encourage people to come downtown and stay, not just come and get something and leave, to really stay and enjoy our area. I mean, Saugatucket River is such, I feel like, underutilized in this town. It's just beautiful, and anybody that lives along it will be the first to say that it's really beautiful. So it's nice to bring people down there and say, look what we have right in our backyard.
Right, and a lot of the comments that I heard in my store, were people didn't even realize there was a river behind the buildings. So, and they were so surprised to see how much work had been done down there already to make it beautiful and enjoyable. And I'm sure they came back during the day and, took a walk or whatever.
Right. I do see the benefits of the river fire. I think it's great to have family events. I just take a little bit issue calling it a free event if it's going to cost $18,000 to get this going. I'm glad that it's for the community, and I think that if we're going to give this $5,000, they're already paying for it. I just would like to see more fundraising for these events, because again, I just...
Well, that's one of the reasons why we decided to take over that art show. We recognize the fact that we really need to raise significant money to do the things that we want to do.
Right.
And this
And
is our
that's
first
great.
year with that.
Right.
So, little bit at a time.
I wish you great. I wish you a lot of luck. I certainly know how hard it is to fundraise. I appreciate that, and it's hard to put that all together. That's why when looking at this, I thought about what Parks and Rec does for the fireworks, and anything else you can do to try to draw in a little bit of money to keep this going, because you can have a lot of great ideas, but you might not be able to fund them all. So,
Sure.
I've heard that you're going to be looking to redo a lot of the lights this year, and there's a lot of care that's going in down there in that section of Main Street. I happen to live on the Saugatucket River. I'm the first to tell you how beautiful it is. So I think the river fire would be great. I would just caution from calling it a free event if you're coming to us asking for $5,000. And I would be inclined to give it, but certainly not on an ongoing. So.
Sure, understand.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you. Was there any other member of the public who wanted to speak to this item? Anna?
So I just had a question, because I really didn't know what it was, but I just wondered, are you partnering with the chamber? Because some of this sounds like things that the chamber would do. Are they supporting you at all? Are you members of the chamber?
So Linda, you're only really supposed to address the council.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's
Oh.
okay.
I didn't know if you could answer that. Okay, so let me ask you.
We might not be able to answer it today.
There we go, okay. All right, so, to me, it just sounded like some of the things that would be done with duplication, and maybe they should be partnering with the chamber to expand that event and get more support and fundraise.
Linda, I just want you to know, too, the EDC came to us recently talking about finding a way to sort of coordinate all these community groups that are working on these community events. And it's something they said they're going to come back to us with a plan. They've talked to other communities to see how they do it, and just present their findings to us to let us know a better way we can coordinate between all these entities rather than have, all these allocations for all these groups that, like you said, are a duplication in some cases. So that is something that's in the works and that we've been talking about.
It's a great question, though. Maybe
Awesome.
we could ask Jan if she has talked to the chamber at all about partnering with them, since...
I didn't mean to put her on the spot.
No, that's...
Well, frankly, the Wakefield Village Association is sort of a chamber of commerce for Main Street, so, and many of those members are also members of the chamber. Jan happens to be on the board of the chamber.
Okay. Then item 3.
So maybe the chamber will be kicking in some money, too.
I don't know. Is a request for a sum of $10,000 for the purpose of professional services to update the town's inventory of historic structures.
Hi, my name is Karina Burston, and I'm here to thank you for hearing this petition. The background of this is really that we've noted that respect for historic resources is a value of the town that's articulated in multiple town documents, including the budget document, which says, for decades now, residents and visitors have been coming to South Kingstown to enjoy the unspoiled beauty of the shoreline, the quiet tranquility of rural farmlands, and the quaint charm of the historic villages. It's mentioned several times in the comprehensive plan and the zoning documents, saying things like the village provides a balanced integration of preserving historic structures with the encouragement of new development and innovative infill strategies to create a seamless village environment. So given that this is a stated town goal, we feel that to fulfill that goal, you need to know what you have, what historic resources you have. And to know that, you have to do a proper survey. So the last survey that was done was in 1984, which is 32 years ago. Best practice is to update these surveys routinely. And that, by that, I mean locating, reporting, and evaluating historic buildings and landmarks. So that's what a survey would do. Properly done, a survey would allow the town to evaluate the current value and impact of the town's buildings in the current environment. So that's why you would update it on a regular basis. And I guess what the basis of this is that had the 1984 survey been updated, the town's process of evaluating and reviewing some of the recent land use decisions applications could have been more efficient and less costly and contentious. The budget issue at hand is that the amount in the current budget, which is $5,000 for this particular survey, is insufficient to even begin. I would say that if the town doesn't want to support this stated goal of preserving historic resources, it should be clear and just take it out of the budget. But if it does want to include it and actually have it done, it needs to allocate sufficient resources. The $10,000 would at least allow an update of greatly diminished proportions, meaning only of Main Street, the current historic Main Street in Wakefield. And it would allow that to be completed, provided that other resources were engaged. For example, there's an internship program at Roger Williams University where those historic preservation students could assist. So we believe that the goals and the values of the town's guiding documents are clear. And we hope that the town will back them in the future by allocating enough sustained resources to indicate its support of those goals and values. So I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions for Karina? So this would be a town-wide thing, did you say?
No, a town-wide survey would actually cost much more than that. This would only be limited to the historic district in Wakefield, basically between Columbia Street and and Belmont Avenue, roughly.
What compels you to believe that the $5,000 that we have would not be enough to do the job?
I've spoken to a couple of planning professionals who indicated that a proper survey would cost $30,000 to $40,000, and that could be roughly cut in half with the use of additional interns.
Do you have the capability of having those interns help you at this point, or no?
This wouldn't be for me, this would be the town, and the town would have to apply for and engage those interns.
This might sound like a simple question, so I apologize, but how much change is there in historic buildings? Wouldn't, you know...
Well, this is the question. How would we know?
If we have historic buildings, you know, and that survey was already done, I just don't see that you have new ones popping up.
You don't, but you have old ones disappearing, and there have been many that have disappeared or have been altered to an extent that changes the nature of the building.
Right.
So all you're doing is really reassessing, taking an old survey and reassessing each of the buildings and how they've changed in the past 30 years, or if they've disappeared, and how that alters the landscape. Because if you take one thing out, you have to reassess what the entire landscape looks like.
Right, right.
To what benefit is it to maintain this list of historical buildings? I live in a really old house, so I certainly value historic buildings and some days curse them from my own personal experience. But what kind of asset is this to us as a community to maintain this list? Does it make us eligible for grants? Is this just for our own knowledge, or?
Well, it does indicate that this is a stated goal. So the town has already said that this is a value to maintain these buildings. To keep this survey current would just help the town in achieving that goal. So if they could, you know, if somebody wanted to rip down Sheldon's, they could say, is that really something that will alter the landscape to such an extent that we would want to put some kind of zoning in place, or some kind of restrictions, or guidelines to make it more conform better to what already exists.
I can see that Steve is itching to say something.
Well, no.
I just wanted to provide a couple of clarifications. The petition itself asked for funding for the town's inventory of historic structures, not Wakefield Historic District. And in Ms. Marcus's original letter of April 8th to the town clerk, again, she indicated that this was a request for the purpose of updating the town of South Kingstown's inventory of historic structures. A couple of things I think that are important. Number one, the town's Historic District Commission has been working with town planning staff and did apply for a grant of $10,000 with Rhode Island Historical Preservation. They got the $5,000 of the $10,000 they asked for. But that was strictly limited to the Wakefield Historic District. There's 52 structures that are within that district that would be updated as far as an update on condition. What the other things that were being looked at was to conduct a corridor inventory and analysis for major gateways coming into the district, both from the east and from the west. and then to look at assessment of different regulatory tools that the town could consider in terms of better managing the exteriors of those structures. The planning staff at this point has indicated that with the $5,000, they've already been in contact with Roger Williams and are looking in ongoing discussions to see if internships are potentially available. There may be some moderate fees that would be associated with that, but for those to be able to assist with the $5,000. Vin Murray's opinion, and unfortunately he was unable to be here this evening, was that he would hope that the Historic District Commission, local, working in conjunction with the state, could come up with an appropriate scope of services that would also include either micro grants from some other groups that are out there for us to at least be able to do an appropriate assessment on the Wakefield district. I want it clear, though, that when we talk about the Wakefield district, we're not talking about the same level of regulation that we're talking about in Kingston. Here we have a district that's got boundaries at Belmont Avenue going all the way up to, almost up to Citizens Bank area. I believe that's where it is, or it may be, I think it's a little past River Street. All of those buildings within that are considered. But there are no regulations. The only thing that regulates buildings within Wakefield is the zoning. And the only way that you would control zoning for the exterior of the building, similar to what you do in Kingston, would be to set up another district and do it through the zoning ordinance. The first step that the Historic District wanted to deal with was Wakefield in terms of the update. The Planning Department and the Planning Board has asked to have a joint meeting with Historic District, so the Planning Department and Planning Board would be working with them. Mr. Murray, at this point, has indicated that he doesn't feel that there's a need for the increase. There's still some planning dollars that are available within the undesignated fund balance that are authorized for planning purposes. They would go through the council if additional dollars were necessary. There's also professional service dollars within the planning department that may be used if there were a specific cost that needed to be accomplished between the historic district and the planning board in the work that they want to do together. So I do want to make it clear that the signatures on that page dealt with the town's inventory, and I do agree that if we were looking at a town-wide update, we're looking probably well over $50,000 for it to be done if we were going to look at regulatory tools, implementation through zoning, as well as district line association. Those things would cost a great deal of dollars. But I think from a practical standpoint, our Historic District Commission felt that the update specifically for Wakefield was appropriate at this point.
Well, and thank you, and thank you for clarifying the budget, because I think that really helps. However, I spoke with Val Talmadge at Preserve Rhode Island, and I said, well, are there micro dollars out there to be had in grants? And she said, well, typically towns pay for these themselves. And so it's something that other towns have appropriated money for. And, you know, it's certainly up to you to say whether it's $5,000 or $10,000, but I think more assistance is needed besides what is currently allocated. Any questions?
Are you, do you serve on the Historic District
No.
Commission? Okay. And following up on a question that Liz sort of had, would something like this be useful? Say we're talking about River Fire and improving that experience, say the backside of Sheldon's, that whole block there could use a little work. I mean, would having something like this done make it more or potentially even less likely to have that facade improved?
I think anything I couldn't answer that specifically, but I would hazard a guess that if there were money out there, if there was a fund, if there were any kind of monies available, that to have an updated survey would allow the owners of those buildings to apply for, say, a revolving fund or some other kind of funding mechanism or grants, because it would be updated. Something that's 32 years old might be seen as a bit outdated.
Excuse me. Having this, the historic district, I think Wakefield currently isn't a one. That affects the property owner's rights, correct?
And there are so many different ways to apply. If you were to become a historic district, if you were to register Wakefield as a historic district, which this doesn't do at all,
Okay.
but if you were to do that, and I would suggest you talk to the Historic District
Yeah.
Commission about this. There are a lot of different ways to do it, and many of them are not restrictive, but merely ask for consideration in terms of the environment that they're.
Right.
Any further questions? Is there anyone else from the public to speak on this issue? All right. Then, at this time, a motion to close the public hearing would be in
I make a
order.
motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Excuse me, I don't think you want to close the public hearing. I think what you want to do is to address each of the specific questions that you've just considered, because we then have to ask whether there's any questions on the $92 million that you propose to spend.
So that I rescind that motion.
Right.
I think that if you go back to your agenda, it may be best to
7A, I believe.
I would deal first with the question that was the referral to the meeting, which was on the VFW request for the $5,000, and then work through the other three that you have that are on page 3 of your agenda.
All right, and then after we close the public hearing, then we have the amendments ready, or is?
I guess, what I would suggest is determine whether there's any questions on the municipal budget. If there isn't, then you need to vote on whether you're going to amend the budget before you close the, you're going to close the public hearing, and then you're going to vote on the budget. But before you do that, you need to deal with each of these three questions within the public hearing.
So then first, we have the $5,000 for the VFW auxiliary.
I would make a motion that we approve the request for $5,000 for the VFW, Public Auxiliary Building, with an explanation has been provided by Ella Whaley in terms of handicapped accessibility and restroom accessibility. And I would ask that once a budget is prepared, that it be submitted as requested.
Second.
So moved. Any further discussion on this issue? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I recuse myself.
All right. So that would require one amendment, or this. Then there's the $25,000 for the sidewalk clearing program. Do I hear a motion on this one?
I will make a motion that we approve the $25,000, I'm not sure, should I just read the thing verbatim? Is that the way that it goes?
No, I think you've got it. It's the $25,000 for the sidewalk
For the
snow
amendment.
removal.
Right. Under the condition that the groups will work with our public, with the town in every capacity possible to develop a plan for useful spending for the $25,000. And certainly if John were to come to us and say he didn't need it, we could definitely reallocate those funds. But that is my motion.
For a second. All right.
I would like to make a motion to deny the request for the $25,000.
Does that require a motion?
The first one has to be.
Yeah, the first motion didn't get a second, so you can go nowhere with that one. You've now, a new motion's on the floor. You need to decide each one of these one way or another, so.
Right.
Rachel's motion would need a second, and then
Do I hear a second? All right, I will second that. All right, discussion.
I'll make a third motion when we're done.
The discussion about that is I do think that it was clear in our goals and objectives. The snow removal is on our minds. I appreciate you coming. I appreciate that conversation is needed. Our staff is certainly looking into it. I just can't go along with obscurely coming up with a number and putting that in the budget. We all want the safety of everyone in the town, and we'll deal with the storms as best we can, and hopefully come up with a plan that pleases everyone next winter. But I just can't go for throwing money out and chasing it.
I certainly understand that and definitely respect that perspective. I do see it more as a gesture that we're committed to coming up with a plan, realizing that it will cost money. Any kind of expansion on the program that we already have is going to be a cost to the community. And I feel like when we're looking at our budgets and where all this money goes, the average citizen doesn't always see how the money benefits them when it's spent. Maybe they don't utilize all the services the town has to offer, or they just don't think about it. But when we talk about spending money to dedicate to clearing our sidewalks and committing to keeping those paths clear, it's money people can see spent immediately and can benefit from. I certainly would like to see a more specific plan and number in place, but I think it's more of recognizing that it's going to be a cost if we're going to recommit or expand our program. So that's how I view it. But I certainly respect the opinions that were said here tonight.
Thanks, Liz. I think there is some value in making a gesture like that, but I think there's also the downside risk of you put $25,000 in a budget without a plan, and then you lead to expectations that really can't be followed through on in any way that we know of yet. I think the town is definitely committed to this issue, and I think we have citizens who are committed to the issue, which is more important. So I have great faith that we can come up with a solid plan, and when there are dollars attached to that, then we can talk about approving those. So that's where I am on this one.
Thank you again, Kenny, for coming forward.
I'd like to make a motion when we're done with this one.
So I think there was a second.
There's a second, yeah.
Yeah.
Any further comments? All right, all in favor of the motion to deny the $25,000, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No?
I said aye.
Okay, sorry. By a vote of 4 to 1, the motion carries. And that brings us,
I would like to make a motion, being cognizant of taxpayer dollars and also the concerns of safety of our citizens, that the point that Ken had brought up and the people of the community, although I know that there are concerns about snow clearing, snow plowing, and there are also a lot of concerns about taxpayer dollars being spent, and also the man hours. I mean, you talk about a cost of $25,000, but it's really not $25,000. It's $25,000 plus getting the available labor from the town to be able to fund and work this, which I think they've done a great job in prior storms. But as everybody pointed out tonight, every storm is different. So if it could be either approved or looked at from the council, I'd like to make a motion that we meet with interested citizens to adopt or come up with some suggestions to keep us cognizant of what the issues are, where the loop, well, I know where the loop is, but where the street lines are. If I don't know if that's a motion that could be made, but to get a group together to discuss.
Yeah, it almost sounds like you're asking for a workshop of
Yeah,
some
something
kind.
like that. I don't know if that could be done or handled. I'm just cognizant about the taxpayer dollars and the amount of manpower that will be spent, so.
When you have, when you have workshops throughout the year, sometimes you double topics up, et cetera. It might make sense to wait until
Okay, then I'll,
you got a workshop ready to go and perhaps go at it that way.
okay, that's fine with me. Then I can rescind that.
That brings us to this final item, $10,000 request for the,
No, we've got the
5,000.
oh, sorry. $5,000 for the river fire.
I would entertain a motion that the $5,000 is approved on a one-time basis for a community event, subject to and contingent upon an effective liability policy that the town can be, because of issues that could be held with that venue. But also, I would like, as I said, I'd like to see that as an ongoing basis. And if the money is not allocated or the funds are not raised, to have enough money to continue to put that event on, that the money defers back to the town. Because that $5,000 was already allocated, if I'm not mistaken, Steve, to the banner program. It's not going to be used for the banners. So if they don't raise the $18,000, which we have contributed $5,000 to, that money would revert back to the town. But I could be wrong.
Well,
I'm trying to understand, what, the $5,000 with the banners is going to die as of June 30th. So if you're going to place $5,000 into the 2016-17 year budget, that's fine. If you're putting the condition on it that we not release the money unless they've got all of the $18,000 or whatever the cost is to actually buy the fire units that they're talking about, I need clarification on that. I mean, is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Just to that point, I wouldn't necessarily support that kind of motion because it might take them more than a year to raise $18,000.
Could we amend the motion to be that the money be used for the new steel baskets and so they could certainly start with the 5. And the money only be used for these steel baskets with approval, upon approval of DEM and liability. But, and that, I agree, it is a one-time cost, and that they realize next year it's $3,500.
I don't think they're going to have the information tomorrow. I mean, this is as of July 1st. So I guess what I'm looking at is that if they're going to spend $10,000 and they're buying 8 units rather than 12 units and they need the $5,000, you're not saying no to that? That's what I want to make sure if I understand.
Right.
Yeah,
Because I think what they're saying is that they hope to raise enough money to buy multiple units, but if they need to start out small, they'll start out small with lesser units.
Steve,
So-
can I interrupt for a second? I think we have 2 motions on the floor, but would it be easier to just reallocate the 15, 16, 5,000?
It could be done that way as well. The thing is, if they want to spend the money, depends, Joe, on when they want to spend the money. If they want to spend it before June 30th, then reallocate within the 15-16 year. If they're not ready for the money, which I don't know if they are, until after July 1st, then you could put it there. Either way, if we reallocated 15-16, I can encumber it past July 1st if that's what you want to do. I think that's the
Yeah.
easiest way of doing
I
it.
do
Yeah.
too. I have to agree.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify on your motion, you were saying that they would give back the money if they ever stopped doing the river fire, but,
No, but this was because, what my
If they-
motion entailed, that this was a one-time allocation.
okay, so you don't mean for them to give it back if like in 10 years they stop doing river fire?
No,
Okay.
no.
Just
No,
clarifying.
no, not at all.
Okay. Yeah, so.
I just would,
I would rescind the motion and entertain the motion that Joe had
Yeah,
That-
to
That's the
reallocate
easiest
the
way to do
funds.
it, and I think that's probably the cleanest way to do it.
I agree.
All right, should I do it
So
during
what
this
your
public?
motion is to take it out of the 15-16 year, and that means that you're going to deny the petition for the 16-17 $5,000.
Correct.
Because
Right.
based on the charter, you have to specifically address the question as presented with the signatures.
Yeah, I would.
You could have two separate motions. First motion would be to reallocate funds from the 15-16 year for the $5,000 to be used toward the purchase of brazers or whatever they're going to be called, the firebox.
That's my motion.
I second that motion.
That motion within this public hearing is okay? Yes. Okay. Second, any discussion on this?
No.
All in favor,
it.
say aye.
Aye.
Motion to deny the $5,000 to the Wakefield Village Association.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. All right. Now on to the $10,000 for the inventory of historic structures in Wakefield, or along Main Street. Do we hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to deny the $10,000 for the reinventorying of historic structures.
I will reluctantly second that. I just want to say, I think that it's tough when we have, this memorandum from Vin Murray that just indicates that he can do the job that needs to be done with the money that he has, and hearing from Steve that there are other funds available if he came to us and said, I need a little bit more, we could tweak it and make it happen. So I think that it's extremely valuable, and I recognize that, but I think it seems like we can get it done within the money that we have, so.
I trust staff.
All right, any further comments?
No, I just feel that if we continue to do this in the other areas within our town, and it is an ongoing process, that we could do this on a continual basis to update all of the historical areas within the town. I think it's important.
I do see the value in it, and I just have to have faith that our staff is able to do that. And I appreciate you. I'm still thinking of your answer of the historic buildings, but yeah.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that motion carries unanimously.
So now what you want to do is find out if there's any public comment on the budget now, as amended, Exhibit 1.
With the new $10,000 in it, yes. All right, any comment on?
Is it a new 10,000, or is it only a new 5?
5.
Well, that's even not there because it's reallocation, isn't it?
Oh, right,
Right, so
that's
it's
right.
No, it's 5 for the VFW.
Oh, right, sorry.
All right, anybody who would like to comment on the whole budget, please come forward now. All right.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that ends the public hearing on the 2016-2017 budget. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I will need to recuse myself from voting on the $5,000, but for the VFW, but I would motion to approve. No? I'm president of the auxiliary, VFW auxiliary. That's raising the money for this. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so I'll make the motion to approve the budget as presented with those items that have been amended this evening.
One item of 5,000.
Yes, the one item, the 5,000.
Can I get a clarification? Should I separate out the chamber even though I'm going to vote no on the budget?
He's not, but his wife's an employee.
And I'm an officer. Yeah.
But here's what we're going to do. Someone else needs to second the motion first of all.
Second.
Okay, now, you can put on the record, Rachel, that you are recusing yourself from the vote on that portion of the budget with regard to the
Okay.
veterans.
I am.
Joe, you can do the same thing with regard to that portion of the budget in the chamber, so you
Yep.
will be out of those two areas, but you can vote on the rest of the budget that doesn't affect those
Okay.
areas.
So I will recuse from acting on the allocation that's going to the Southern Rhode Island Chamber of Commerce.
And I'm recusing from any action on the $5,000 to the VFW.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Yes, I second it.
We have a second. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously, 3-0 with two
No.
recusals?
And two
Oh,
recusals.
two recusals for that part.
One no.
I have a no on the budget minus the
So
Southern
it's
Island
really
Yeah, we need
4
to,
yeses.
minus the Chamber of Commerce.
Gets
Right.
the vote, so.
So it's 4, 1, 2 recusals, right?
He didn't vote on the chamber, I didn't vote on the VFW.
It's a 4-to-1 vote to adopt.
2 recusals, yeah.
With one being against the budget adoption.
okay, you got that.
Yep, Dale has it all.
Wonderful.
Good luck, Dale.
Democracy isn't pretty sometimes.
Congratulations, everybody.
Okay.
Public hearing B is a hearing relative to filing the Community Development Block Grant. This is a program for year 2016, and the application for the purposes of reviewing the draft application and obtaining citizen views on the proposed activities. The following is the local priority list. It's listed in your agenda. So there might be some organizations who are present who might want to just come up and speak briefly.
Could I just ask, before we go to the interview, let me just place on the record what we're doing right now.
Okay.
With the Community Development Block Grant Program, we hold 2 public hearings in the course of the year that's legally required. The first public hearing was conducted earlier this year, and this is the second public hearing. This second public hearing is subsequent to each of the different agencies who may request funding being able to submit applications to the Planning Department. Once the Planning Department received each of those applications, they then put together a priority list and took it through the Planning Board. The list before you this evening has been approved to be submitted with the recommended prioritization as presented on the agenda this evening. We did ask that any of the agencies that we're presenting that wanted to make statements could be here this evening to present to the council on the specific needs for which they're requesting funding. Again, I want to make it clear that we can ask for up to $250,000. Average funding levels have been probably in the 140 level over the last several years. You will notice that the local housing rehabilitation program is shown at 0. That's because housing rehabilitation dollars are taken out of a separate pot of money that's used for housing rehab purposes. So it's not that we are doing away with the rehab program, it's just that it won't be funded through the traditional application. So with that, I would ask for any of the representatives of the different agencies that would like to present to go forward at this point.
Good evening, members of the council, distinguished town officials. My name is Cameron Ennis. I'm from the Education Exchange. Last year we served 105 South Kingstown residents with our job readiness program. We have job search, resume writing, interview preparation, GED, English as a second language. We also serve high school students with an alternative learning program. And we have the only Pearson Testing Center in Washington County. I've seen many of you before. We're happy to be here. We have some new programs. Our hospitality, a ServSafe certification. We've awarded 40 certifications already this year. And I'm very pleased to tell you about our aquaculture training program that we rolled out this year. And I would like to thank the town because you're actually a partner of that program. And without you, I don't think our grant would have been as attractive. So I worked with the planning department, town manager, signed off on it, and we're very grateful. We also have the Johnny Cake Center and Welcome House, did all our recruiting, and I'm pleased to report that we have 9 out of 16 participants are South Kingstown residents in that program. That being said, I apologize for missing the town budget meeting. Putting unemployed people and displaced people into internships with oyster farmers looked beautiful on paper. But I'm pleased to say that now, things are running smoothly. I picked everyone up at the dock today, and there were no injuries, and the internships are going very well. So I'm really grateful. As I'm sure you're aware, or maybe you're not, there were no public service community block grants awarded last year. It put holes in many of our budgets. And for myself, we were able to fill some of the hole thanks to our partnership with this new grant. In hard times, I would much rather negotiate with our landlord than a bank. No, we don't own the building, but that's a question for another day. So while I'm somewhat fortunate, my neighbor organizations have bigger holes to fill. And that stated, I don't take for granted the town's municipal support or the support for our community block grant. And it is with that gratitude that I advocate for support of my job readiness program. And all of the applicants' proposals as they are listed, so that we may continue to serve the residents of South Kingstown and our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Cameron, I've heard you speak before at other places, and your program's just wonderful. I love your enthusiasm for it, so thank you for all you do.
I get the easy part. I get on the job for sustainability.
Thank you.
You can.
Thank you, Town Council members and city officials. My name is Kate Brewster. I'm the Executive Director of the Johnny Cake Center of Peacedale. I know you're all very familiar with our work, so I'll be very brief. Last year, we served 1,200 residents from South Kingstown. We distributed 215,000 pounds of food that translated into 170,000 meals. So despite the recovery, we continue to be very busy. I just want to make one important point in support of our request. You were all there last Thanksgiving, passing out and distributing Thanksgiving baskets. We were all outside surveying the visitors who were coming through. And you may have heard us talk about the fact that 80% of the folks who completed that survey we found to have very low or low food security, meaning they have reductions or disruptions in their food intake at some point throughout the year. So we are trying hard to increase the amount of food that we're giving folks, to purchase better food, proteins and produce, and this request would go a long way in helping us to be able to do that in the coming year. So thank you for all of your past support, and I know that your continued support is greatly appreciated as well. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Town Council members and town officials. My name is Mary Rhoda. I've been in front of you several times before. And I really would like to reiterate what Cam just said. There are many of us from social services here tonight, and we depend on each other, we work with each other, and we value all the money that is donated to us. We were very fortunate last year because our money did go towards our residential program to be included in the CDBG grant, and we're looking for that kind of support again this year for that program. Does anybody have any questions?
You do a good job, Mary.
Thank you. It's an honor to be where we are, where I am. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Joe Joback. I'm the Executive Director of Welcome House. And thank you again for giving us the opportunity to speak to you. I know we have two requests in, one for operations, one for capital. I'd like to speak to the operations first, which may put the capital in a little more perspective. In the past year, Welcome House served 262 individuals in our residential network and countless more through our soup kitchen. 75 of those individuals were South Kingstown residents, or approximately 30%. Our motto is more than a bed and a hot meal. It's a chance to make a course correction in life. 55% of those who entered Welcome House homeless last year left with stable housing. 62% left with at least one source of income. 35% were gainfully employed. Those are statistics that we report to the Homeless Management Information System. It does not, however, include those people who may have been employed on a daily basis, or who may have obtained a job and then got laid off at some point during their stay at Welcome House. We're hoping to improve upon that employment goal this year. If I could talk a little bit about some of the changes that occurred in the past year. I've been at Welcome House now about 14 months. My goal when I arrived was to try to beef up the services we provided and to bring other resources to the program. What we've done in the past year is we've hired a full-time social worker who lives in town to work with those in the shelter and those transitioning back into the community. We have a regular set of meetings now with Beacon Health Strategies. They're the behavioral health component for Neighborhood Health Plan. Most of the people coming into Welcome House are on Medicaid or have Neighborhood Health Plan as their insurer. What they do is they have a mobile treatment team. So if we have people at the shelter that need additional service, we can contact them. We already have a pilot program with Neighborhood Health Plan, and they will bring additional case management resources on site as necessary. We also established an internship program with URI's School of Nursing and Pharmacy program. We've had undergraduate students and also nurses who are RNs to the BSN program. So we've got some very experienced nurses that have worked with us, and we were proud to get our first pharmacy student with us, and we have another pharmacy intern who will be starting this summer. You might say, well, what does a pharmacy intern do at Welcome House? He's done blood pressure checks. He did a workshop on the use of Narcan for people who have overdosed. His pharmacy professor has been also at Welcome House, attended some of these trainings. He meets with people to give them an idea of what some of the side effects might be to some of the medications they're taking. So we've really found a way to give the students a useful role there. We also have an 8-hour-a-week certified substance abuse specialist who works with my staff to work on some of the clinical issues that arise. We've partnered with the Peacetown Congregational Church when we did the winter shelter program. And starting next week, we will have a finance director. For the last year, I've been the administrative overhead of Welcome House, finance, HR, quality, et cetera. And I think it's time with an organization our size that we have somebody financially capable of managing the resources. The $20,000 that we're asking for in general operating funds will help to ensure that the services that we put in place will continue. As you know, a lot of our grant requests are they're requests, and we may or may not be successful in getting some of those resources. We're also trying to step up our fundraising. We had a major fundraising drive over the holidays. We raised about $25,000. We have the Metric Century we're calling bicycle ride from Welcome House to the Warm Center in Westerly and back to Welcome House, and I'll be participating in that. So wish me luck. So I'll stop with the operations, and then if you don't have too many questions on that, then I'll get into the capital requests, which complement, I think, what we're doing at Welcome House.
I don't know if there's going to be too many questions. Don't feel like we're going to give you a hard time on this stuff overall, I would say.
No, but we certainly appreciate hearing all you do.
Okay. Do you want me to get into the capital request then? Or?
Please, I mean...
I'd be curious what you're doing over there. Yeah.
So when I arrived, there had been some money already allocated for building improvements for Green Street, which was a disaster relief funding through Community Development Block Grant, and then also money through CBDG for what we call the scattered sites. My priority was Green Street because under disaster relief, there was a sunset of the money that was available. I got some strong, I should say, in-service education from Doug and from Jeff on what CBDG was about, what they funded, how the dollars were different. Money had been awarded to a contractor who clearly was not up to stuff to do the job. So the last year has really been spent trying to square away Green Street. Now we're turning our attention to the scattered sites. Those properties did get money that we used to upgrade the heating systems last year. But now there's a lot of other work. It appears that there was a lot of deferred maintenance for a number of years, and we're trying to play catch-up. I don't make these decisions myself. I hired a civil engineer as a project manager, so what she'll do is we'll walk through the properties, we'll decide what the priority areas are. She will then write out the scope of service. She will basically entertain the contracts from the various people wanting to do the work, and then she'll make a request to Jeff to make sure that that's vetted, also Doug. Once the work is done, she reviews it to make sure it's done correctly before any bills are paid. So I feel that I've got somebody with a pair of eyes that's more knowledgeable in this area than I do, and certainly Jeff and Doug have been very helpful in guiding me along this path. So, any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill?
There's a communication.
Communication to be read into the record.
Communication dated April 13th, 2016, in reference to the Community Development Block Grant, Comprehensive Community Plan Compliance Review and Action on the Town's Program Year 2016 Small Cities Community Development Block Grant Application not to exceed $250,000. Dear council members, at the meeting of the South Kingston Planning Board held on Tuesday, April 12th, the board voted as follows. Motion at a meeting held on April 12th, 2016 in the South Kingstown Town Council chambers. The Planning Board of the Town of South Kingstown reviewed the proposals contained in the Program Year 2016 Small Cities Community Development Block Grant application and has been given the opportunity to comment on said proposals. The Planning Board certifies that to the best of its knowledge, the activities proposed are not in conflict with the general policies set forth in the Comprehensive Community Plan of the Town of South Kingstown. Respectfully, Maria Mack, Chair, Planning Board.
Thank you. Were the Is there anybody from any other organization who wants to speak on this public hearing? Great. Any discussion among council members?
I think I did ask you, Steve, you said that the Housing Authority does qualify to apply for this particular grant, but they just, they declined this year to do that? Okay.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
So moved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Do I hear a motion for approval?
Make a motion so moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to item 8, communications. 8A are resolutions adopted April 12th, 2016 by the South Kingstown School Committee concerning a few different legislative acts, the School and Family Empowerment Act, the Evergreen Act, I believe you said it was called, Steve, H7243, an act relating to criminal offenses and weapons, and H7644, an act relating to education, curriculum, free play, recess. I do see Michelle. Are you here to speak on these resolutions? Okay.
Motion to place agenda item Communications 8A on file.
Second.
All right, any discussion on these?
I would just like to say that among these communications, I do disagree with the Evergreen contracts resolution that they proposed, but I am happy to put these items on file.
And I think when we discussed in the work session, there's a lot of, there's a lot in this, so unless we were going to speak on each one, the easiest thing was just to put them on file. But we certainly all have opinions on them, and I think we all wanted a recess. I think there's, one of them is recess and how important it was, so. I think we all need a seventh inning stretch about now.
All right. Any further comments here? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. 8B is a communication dated April 20th, 2016, from Michael Sherry, President of the South Kingstown Land Trust. This is requesting endorsement of the Governor's proposed $35 million green economy bond.
I'll make a motion to place item 8B on file.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? I'm in big support of the green economy bond as it's been laid out by the governor. I think there's a lot of interesting work that can be done with it in terms of green infrastructure, promotion of bike paths, and of course open space acquisition, all of which I think are good things. So I hope people will vote for this if it does get onto the ballot, but I'm fine with putting it on file as well. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to item 9, comments from interested citizens. Is there anybody out there who would like to come and speak? Please just state your name for the record.
My name is Doral Beasley. I live in Kingston. I was heartened to see recently in the Independent that the council had held a public hearing regarding modification to the charter to fill a vacancy on the council. I'm here this evening just very briefly to suggest that same change be also made to how vacancies on the school committee are filled. So today it reads that the 7 members, blah blah blah, and then any vacancy in the membership of the school committee shall be filled by the town council for interim appointment until the next regular town election, at which time the vacancy shall be filled for the balance of the unexpired term. Okay, so you have a situation again where in a general election you have people in the town coming forward to as candidates for school committee, and like I think the last election I think there were 2 open vacancies if I remember correctly, but it changes from every general election usually because of the staggered terms they have on the school committee. But you usually normally you'll have more candidates than actually are elected to whatever positions are open. So it would be my suggestion that similarly you would take the next highest vote getter and ask that person whether or not they wanted to fill a vacancy if one occurred during that 2-year time, because really it's the same situation since you have a general election every 2 years, and with the staggered terms you're seem to be electing new people all the time, every 2 years, that you'd always, in most instances, you would have somebody there in the queue to be asked whether or not they'd want the job. If there wasn't, then you would appoint somebody like you did before. But I just, not to give anybody a serious headache, I'm not going to read what I actually did something here. I'm going to give it to, as I'm leaving, maybe Dale could take a look at it, and then I don't know if you guys want to discuss this. I don't know what the timing of it is, to get this thing on the ballot and all that stuff, but you might want to just think about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doral, generally, there are more candidates than seats available. In 2014, there were 3 vacancies and 3 candidates. Right. Yep. Yeah, understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comments from the public?
Letting it get up twice?
I just personally want to thank the town council for the $5,000 allocation to the VFW auxiliary, the post. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. I see no other comments from the public. How about up here? Good place.
Well, I wanted to speak. There's an event coming up this Saturday night. It's a comedy event at the Elks Club for South County Food, Fitness, and Fun, which is a program I've been working with for almost 10 years. It's a pediatric obesity intervention, and we try to raise funds to keep this program going. There's no cost to the kids that participate and the families that participate in this program. So we do rely on some fundraising. We've been doing this program for 9 years now, and it's being done as a study. And we work with the URI Foundation. So at least once or twice a year, we put together a fundraising event, and it happens to be this Saturday night. It's $30 a ticket at the Elks Club. I do know there's a ton going on, and we've been to a ton of things. The only other one I would really like to point out is May 7th, the Brandon Austin Memorial Foundation is going to be having the basketball court dedication at Fagan Court. And I know our Parks and Rec staff has been working very, very hard on this, as has Brandon's mother. And they're going to be putting together a really nice event. So if anyone is around on May 7th at 1 o'clock, head on over to Fagan's Court.
I just wanted to bring up 2 things as well, and this is a reiteration, but in recognition of the Older Americans Month, there's also an annual dinner dance that's open to all seniors in our town or surrounding area, free of charge, to honor their contributions during their tenures in what they've done. And that, again, is at the Elks Hall. And the date on that is this Thursday night, and it's from 4 to 8. And it's 4 o'clock is a music and social hour, a pot roast dinner starting at 5. There's a speaking program in which we will be giving a proclamation, and then there's music and dancing, and it's open to all seniors older over the age of 60. And again, that's open to the public, and that is a free event. The other thing I was asked to bring up by Ken Kennerson, the South Kingstown Elks received a grant last year in the amount of $20,000 for what's called their senior rap program. They also received the same amount of funding this year, only one of 3 in the entire country that has received the grant for 2 years in a row, which is a wonderful recognition to speak to what the Elks does in our community. What they had asked me to do, bring up, is to contact the Elks at 60 Belmont Avenue, right here in town, right down the road, because they would like to see some community service time if there are any young adults that have to do community service for whatever reason. I know it's somewhat late in the high school year, but if you have juniors that are going to be becoming seniors who have to do portfolio projects or do community service, please contact the Elks because they're looking for younger volunteers to help with the community wrap program, which goes out to the homes of senior citizens and does things such as rake leaves, do slight construction work, cut grass. It's a wonderful program that helps our seniors who are not able to do things for themselves. Thank you.
Just real quickly, I wanted to say I was reminded over the last few weeks about what an incredible community that we live in, both with the, well, I was at the steak fry for Jason Foreman this past weekend, and John Foreman got up and was thanking everybody who was there fundraising, and he said, you know, I can't believe after all these years the way the community comes together to remember Jason, and I thought that that was so telling of the community that we live in and the people of our community. We just don't leave anybody behind, and we remember and honor families and support them in their times of need. And I think especially the last couple of weeks we've seen that. And just as Abel acknowledged at the beginning of the meeting, my heart goes out to the Storties, and I personally reached out to the police department to let them know. They worked so hard, everybody did, the community really came together for the family, and seeing all the people that turned out yesterday, it just really breaks your heart. But this community really rallies behind families that need it, and I'm just so proud to live here among people that care that way. So just a reminder that we're really lucky.
If I could, I'd like to also add May 7th, if you do get to go to the Brandon Austin basketball court dedication, that evening you can go to the Easter Seals event at the Haversham. Every year they have a derby party, and it's always a good time. So certainly if you can get there. There's the Snug Harbor Fire Department's having their breakfast this Sunday, so it's just the calendar is very, very full.
The 15th is the bowling.
Yes.
The bowling fun.
That's the 7th as well. I mean, there's like 3 things on the 7th, but also great job with the Little League opening day. I was so glad the rain held off for the kids. It was certainly a great event. We had some members that were there. I know Ella's husband was one of the ones that threw out the pitch because they were celebrating their 65th anniversary of Little League and SK, and it was a great day. And all our fingers were crossed it didn't rain, and it came through, so. Yeah.
I'll just put in one plug. Tomorrow there is an election happening. So we rarely have much influence in Rhode Island here on the presidential race, but we have an opportunity. We have been cut down in terms of the number of our polling places. Dale, you probably have a better idea of what they are.
Yes, tomorrow we will have 3 polling locations open for districts 1, 2, and 3. They will be at the South Kingstown Senior Center. For districts 4, 5, 6, and 7, they will be at Bourse Arena. And for 8, 9, and 10, they will be at the New Life Assembly.
Thank you. With that, town manager's report.
Wow.
Good. Appointment, you want to promote?
Steve, I have a question about the zoning board appointment. Does the zoning board typically determine who's the first and second alternate?
No, the town council
Town
does.
council. Okay, well then I'll make a resolution to move alternate number 1, John Bernardo, to the open seat.
Second?
So moved. All in favor, say aye.
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 That motion carries unanimously.
And another resolution to move Richard Jerzak to the alternate 1 seat that's just been vacated.
Second?
So moved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then I'll make a resolution to reappoint to the Partnership for Prevention Dr. Celeste Corcoran and Pastor Keith McNamara to
Second.
3-year terms expiring June 2019.
Second?
Second. Third. I approve.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 And
Motion carries unanimously.
were we going to be then advertising for the zoning board vacancy of an alternate? Okay.
And I think that takes care of the appointments. Brings us to item 13 on the agenda, new business. 13A is a resolution authorizing fund transfers as shown on Exhibit 2.
I make a motion to approve, wait, Steve, do you have anything to say about
That's fine.
I make a motion to approve item 13A as presented on the agenda.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. 13B, a resolution authorizing the town manager to execute RI Department of Transportation Construction and Maintenance agreements for High Street improvements, as further detailed in a memo from the Public Services Director to the town manager.
We need to sign off on this as a component of the High Street project for us to assume maintenance and operation. I do want to clarify, we had hoped to have this as a solar lamp. It may not be possible based on the trees that are in that area. We may have to go to, a power-driven one.
Okay.
Just take the trees down.
I make a motion that we approve item number 13B.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. 13D is a resolution authorizing an amendment to awards of bid originally granted on April 13th, 2015. This is to New England Asphalt Services for stone sealing with emulsion and latex and post sweeping at the unit prices of $1.76 per square yard, and for crack sealing Inc. of Raynham for random crack sealing using fiber reinforced asphalt at the unit price of $8.93 a gallon. This pricing is subject to actual liquid asphalt pricing at the time of work and with a total sum cost of all pavement management services not to exceed $250,000 for the fiscal year, and is further described in a memorandum from the Public Services Director to the town manager.
Unless there's questions.
Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to approve item D as presented on the agenda.
Second.
So moved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved.